welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I have such a treat for you today. I want to introduce to everybody on my channel, Guiding Star's brand new Horary Astrologer, Gaia. Gaia, it is wonderful to have you with us, and we are so excited to learn all about Horary Astrology and to learn all about you. Welcome.
Hi, Kesenya. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, for putting your trust in me. First of all, you, Kesenya, and of course, second of all the people who will comment, who will watch and listen and purchase readings with me. So thanks to everyone.
Beautiful. Now, Gaia is joining us all the way from Italy, and it's wonderful to connect with someone in that part of the world. I have never been to Italy, Gaia, but I hope to one day. I hope to come visit you one day, because all that history and the beauty of that country and the diversity and the food, I can't wait.
Oh yeah. It's so lovely to connect from the other side of the world, because that's what it is. I am in the northern hemisphere, you're on the southern, so we are so close. But if you look at the map of the world, we are so far, and that's great that technology allows us to be so close. If you think about it, it's so fascinating and kind of romantic as well.
Yes. Well, you're probably no stranger to utilizing technology, Gaia, because you actually have Aquarius rising, which probably makes you very technically savvy, I would imagine.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Gaia, for those who are interested in Gaia's astrological qualifications, Gaia has Aquarius rising, which gives her like natural abilities in astrology, obviously, but also she has a stellium in Capricorn. And this stellium is in, obviously, because it's in Capricorn, in whole sign astrology, this is her 12th house. She has the sun there, the moon there, Mercury, Uranus, and Neptune all together.
And Jupiter as well.
Oh, and Jupiter. Oh, practically everything is there. Everything's in the 12th house. So what do you feel, Gaia, that brings to your life, having that strength in the 12th house?
Well, if you put together the 12th house and Aquarius, it's quite it's not, I mean, when you're very young, and when I was like 16, 17, 18, I was so confused, because when you have the sun in the 12th house, like, who am I? What am I supposed to do? And Aquarius, Aquarius, you know, ruled by Saturn and Uranus. So what is my path? Because I'm pulled in different directions and I don't know what to do, where to go. And, you know, you got to figure it out.
Yeah. And
you have to stand your ground and not back down, as a singer used to sing. I don't remember his name, so I'll just play, but it was this wonderful song. And you know, you realize that, okay, now I have to accept that I'm not gonna go where everybody else around me is going. Because what it is, Aquarius, if you think about it, it's the society, but it's also originality. So you have to accept that you are part of something bigger, but you have to have the courage to walk on your own. And the 12th house is isolation, loneliness. And when you're very young, this is very heavy and very tough. And you feel like you're doomed and everybody's against you and everybody is leaving you out of the picture. But then at one point you realize, oh no, because that's my life path, because I discovered astrology and I have understood that the 12th house is isolation. And you have to come to terms with it. And Aquarius is like, yes, I understand that I'm not the only one, that there is a whole organism around me, but I have to walk on my own path. And so if you put all this together, you see that it's a path that not many people walk on, but at the same time, people are part of it. People are the source of energy. And what happens is that, as Aquarius does, he puts a little bit of distance. So it kind of works on his own, but in service to people. And this goes very well with the 12th house.
Yes, so, compassion of the 12th house. When you speak of isolation, for those who aren't aware, Gaia, you're blind, and so you've had to deal with life's difficulties much more than what people who can see have. For example, the very fact to me that you can read astrological charts utilizing this Aquarian technology that you've got that gives you that special ability to read charts despite being blind. I mean, these are challenges that you've had to overcome, and you've overcome them so beautifully. And now you're using those obstacles to empower yourself with your service to the world.
Yeah, if you think about the 12th house and Neptune, it could talk about being a little bit of fragile, so to say, position. I don't see myself as fragile, but it's one of the manifestations. If you have so much 12th house, if you have Neptune so prominent, and what I don't have in the 12th house, I have it in Pisces. So it comes back to square zero or square one, or however you want to put it. So yeah, the disability, being disabled, having some impairments or challenges could really, like, it goes either way. Either you stay in the victim position, and it's normal to be in that position, especially when you're very young, because you are not in the planet Earth and the society in general is not a compassionate environment by default.
No.
So especially when you're an adolescent, you are out with the sharks, right? Because that's what it is. And you're out with the sharks, you're trying to survive. And if the sharks smells a little bit of blood, it's gonna be onto you. And you're gonna be dinner. And you don't want to end up dinner, right? No. So the thing is that, after the victim, you pull yourself out of the gutter and say, okay, let's do something about it. Let's be the teacher, let's be the guide, and let's be, someone who can inspire other people. Because in this way, you can get out of it.
You absolutely inspire me. I mean, you're almost finished your law degree for a start, and that in and of itself is, to me, a phenomenal achievement. And as well as your passion and ability in astrology. Sorry, I interrupted you. So do keep going with your heroic story.
I think my oceanographic metaphor was finished, but.
Very rude of me to interrupt. I got so excited with what you're sharing.
It's fine. So, at this point, you decide that you want to inspire people, and you want to, the other thing that the other point that I want to drive home is that you have to say your own thing, even though maybe you are a voice which is not singing in tune with the choir, that you have. It's not just about people who have impairments, but people who have difficulties, people who are facing challenges in their lives. It's so important to say what you think and use your own voice. Because I give you a very short example. So many people, I know many people who have my same disability, and they overcompensate by portraying themselves super happy, that everything is good, easy, and, just flows. But it's not like that. And I don't want to be the one who is delivering you the Neptunian rose-colored glass picture. And that's valuable for the astrology that I do. I don't want to tell you, I'm not going to tell you, oh, it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful garden. Wow, the roses are blooming. I mean, if you want to daydream, I'm all for it because I have a strong Neptune, but just listen to some music which leads you maybe to a place where you can daydream, or read a book that allows you to daydream and to escape, because we do need to escape reality. Sometimes it's too much. So I'm all for it. Just do it in a healthy way. Don't take some nasty substances.
But that sounds very pragmatically Capricorn to me, what you're describing there.
Yes, because I do escape reality, but I try to do it. I mean, I rarely drink alcohol, and when I do, I just want to drink fancy liquors just because That's the Capricorn in me. Like, this week must be fancy.
Of course, the top shelf only. But, yes, I'm with you there.
Yeah. But other than that, you know, if you want to escape reality, do it, because we need to dream. We need to be inspired. We are in the business, in a reality which is geared toward business, toward money, towards running all day and do this and do that and stay according to schedule. Because if you get just a little bit off track, the world is over. So, you know, we need to get out of this. We need to be inspired. But what I do with astrology, I try to inspire people, but at the same time, I want to point out the difficulties, because if we do not acknowledge the difficulties, the problems, we can't get out of the gutter, because the only way to get better, like if your tooth is hurting, you can't ignore it. At one point, you have to go to the dentist, or you have to do something about it. And if you don't want your tooth to be rudely extracted with the drill, a horrible thing, you have to take care of it step by step and pay attention to it. As soon as you hear, as soon as you feel a small amount of pain, you have to say, oh, it's painful. What should I do about it so that it doesn't get worse? Because if it gets worse, then it starts spiraling.
The difficulties and obstacles in life are here to point us in the right direction to address things and deal with things. Is that what you're meaning by that analogy?
Yeah, and also you have to face them kind of immediately, because if you allow them to simmer, it becomes like boiling. And at one point, it's like the lava of the volcano. And if the volcano decides that it wants to blow up, it's gonna be a disaster. So the point that I want to drive home is that don't be afraid of the problems. Don't be afraid of the challenges, because if you start working with them early, it's not gonna be a massive problem in the end, because step by step you start healing, you start improving. So I think it's very important. Don't let them simmer. Don't be afraid. Don't wait till, you know, the tooth is to be removed, because then you will have a tooth less.
Exactly. I know what that's like. But I've actually had a reading. I've had a couple of readings from you with Horary Astrology, which is your specialty. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I found that you are so sensitive in how you deliver the difficult news, like you've just kind of exhibited here, your description of life and its problems, which are common to us all, but you do it in a way that is compassionate, that 12th house energy coming through yet again. And it's beautiful. And I was also really impressed by the way, and we'll talk about Horary Astrology in a second, but by the way you utilized Horary Astrology and you covered every possible facet of information within that Horary Astrology chart that was cast. You know, you leave no stone unturned. You're very very thorough, very thorough. The other thing that I want to highlight about my reading with you was, well, it was so accurate. In fact, I'm still in the midst of one of those readings playing out, but it was so bang on. It was so on point. You could see things in my life that I wasn't even consciously aware of, but the moment you spoke about them, it was like the light of knowledge came flooding in, you know, that beam of sunlight, you know, illuminated everything. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And I didn't even see that in my own life. I didn't even realize that was happening. And that's exactly what's happening. So there's this element in how you do your astrology that I find very psychic, very tuned in. And that I feel also is coming from that stellium in your 12th house. It's like you're channeling information and as much as you're reading the chart and the information as well. It's a tremendously powerful talent that you have, Gaia. Really.
Yeah, it's like shooting. If you shoot, you want to hit the target, right? So if you want to see it this way, it's like you can't allow yourself to miss the target.
Well, you really do hit the target, but then, you know, people can do astrology readings and they don't have that, let's call it that psychic ability, that tuning in, that sensitivity. And maybe it comes a bit from the fact that, you know, you've got to use all your senses to get a feel for something.
Yeah.
You know, some people will do astrology and they don't have that capacity, and they're very much, this is what the techniques say, and that's the end of the story. And they don't allow spirit to flow through them as well. And I find astrology readings like that can tend to lack a little, but not with you, because you're a very spiritual person, and that's been a big part of your journey too, hasn't it?
Yeah. And also, I have Jupiter in Capricorn, which is, according to the dignity, very poorly placed. But Jupiter in Capricorn allows you to see immediately what's wrong. Because opposite to the rulership Jupiter, which is very optimistic and ooh, let's do it, it's gonna be super fun and crazy. Jupiter in Capricorn is like, listen to me, 1 minute, this is not gonna work. Look at that, there are holes here. Come on, let's put it back together. Let's look at what needs to be addressed. So, like, to all of those who have Jupiter in Capricorn out there, like, don't despair. You have the ability to see immediately what's wrong in a situation. And if you find a way to point it out in a fashion that works, it's gonna be incredibly useful, especially if you have it in a water house.
Absolutely. Yeah, very powerful. So tell us just briefly how you discovered astrology. How did you get into doing astrology?
Well, I was lost and I needed a map which would allow me to find my way. For those who have read the saga The Dark Tower by Stephen King, will understand the metaphor of being on the path of the beam, right? So I wasn't on this path and I felt lost. There was a wasteland around me, if you want to put it this way. And I needed something that put me back on this path. And I knew about the sun signs and I knew about those things, but you know, that's not really the true astrology. Astrology is much more. And so I started getting some readings here and there, including Kesenya, by the way.
Delight to do that. Yes.
Just saying. And then I came back to you multiple times. And at one point I said, this is so fascinating. This is something that never ends, because you learn and then you learn and you learn and you learn. And I need something endless that's to stimulate me. And then I started, like many people, with natal astrology. And then I discovered Horary. And I was like, oh my God, this is so precise. This allows me to be so on point. And it's something that I love, because with so much Capricorn and Aquarius, because I do have Mars in Aquarius, we don't really like the dilly-dallying. And if you look at the Horary chart, it tells you all about a specific topic, a specific question, and you really dissect the question into the various components. So it's like a little bit making the autopsy of the question, if you like.
Yes. Well, it's very pinpointed, isn't it? Horary astrology.
Yeah, because if I ask a question such as, shall I invest in gold, for example? This is a question you can answer, and with the Horary astrology, they're like, you want the answer to this very precise question. And if I look at the natal chart, I may look at the second house and the 8th house and put it all together, but it gives me so many options.
That's correct.
So the difference between natal astrology and Horary astrology is that, of course, natal astrology gives you the overall picture, and it can be used for psychological matters, karmic matters, or for general questions, such as which are my natural inclinations when it comes to career, or which kind of people do I tend to attract, or, you know, how do I behave in relationships, whatever. But if I have a question such as, oh, I met this super fit guy at the pub and we had a drink together and we talked and we danced, but is this going anywhere? I didn't even know the birth date of the guy because we were, busy doing something else.
And some people feel a bit awkward about asking for birth details straight up.
Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't do so either. Because it's like super awkward. And some people, especially the skeptic ones, they may even get kind of mad about it. So if you have met this super wonderful person, you're like, is this going anywhere? Well, the Horary chart will tell you this. And so with Horary, you can ask again all sorts of questions, but the point that I want to drive home is that when you ask a question, be ready to hear the answer, because sometimes the answer is not what you expect, especially for questions about relationships, pregnancy. I feel like those are the most delicate topics because they involve emotions. So if you ask me a question about, shall I invest in silver? It's not really an emotional question. Maybe you're really affectionate to silver, I don't know. But generally, the emotional involvement in such a matter is limited. But if you ask me about a relationship or will I get pregnant by the end of the year, and I see that there are blocks that are preventing you from the pregnancy, and I tell you this is a very delicate topic, especially for a woman. So for those questions where the emotional involvement is high, my recommendation is to sit down a little bit and try to think if you are ready to hear the answer. This is very important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. There's a lot of sensitive topics we want the answers to, and our hope keeps us going. But sometimes, as you very rightly explained in the beginning of our conversation here, you need to be very grounded and realize, life is not always the rose garden that you described earlier, smelling the roses.
No.
So for those people who aren't aware, and Gaia, you might want to add a little bit to this after I've described it, but horary astrology, my understanding, it came from the medieval period, William Lilly and people like that who used it quite frequently.
Yeah, he was the father of horary astrology, if you want to put it this way. At least Western horary astrology, he was the father of it,
Yeah. And so it's really only had a revival, I understand, in the last 30 years or so. And so it's come sort of fairly fresh to us in this day and age, or revived, resuscitated in this day and age. But it works a lot like an oracle, I guess, would, in that somebody would give you the question that they're wanting to have answered, and you would cast an astrology chart for that moment that you understand the question. So you don't need a birth time or a birthplace or anything like that to be able to get an answer to your question. And so you would cast the chart, and then you would analyze it and give the answer to the question from the chart of the moment that the question was asked, which I guess it's a lot like tarot cards or other methods of divination. I find that Horary astrology, as with all astrology, everything is energy, and it's so accurate. And maybe we could pop over now, unless you want to add to what Horary astrology is. By all means, go ahead, and then we're going to share a chart with a question and just see how this actually works.
I'm going to suggest that we directly go to the question and the chart, because I'm going to explain, kind of put a little bit of this, a little bit of that while I read the chart. And it's going to be easier because we have the chart, there is the example. So immediately I say and you see it.
Terrific. Okay, well, I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second. So what I have up is an astrology chart, and the question is, shall I stay or shall I move? This is for an anonymous person who is a real person who's asked this question. Shall I give some background to this, Gaia, or Do you want to talk?
Yeah, you can just explain maybe how the process went of asking the question, because we had a little bit of back and forth, and it's important that people understand how the process goes.
Yes. So I contacted a friend of mine. Gaia requested a question to address for our video, and I contacted a friend of mine, and she was willing to anonymously give a question that she had pertinent at the forefront of her mind. She's an energy healer, so she has her own business, and she's in Melbourne. She has 4 children and a partner who is a school teacher who's been lost his job due to the circumstances in the world, and he's started a tutoring business online now, which seems to be going quite well for him, which is great. So both of them, particularly my girlfriend, is keen to get out of the city, to sell their house and to move to a rural area and get debt free. And I think a lot of people, this is quite pertinent, I thought, as a question, because a lot of people are, addressing this issue themselves right now. How do I get out of debt and live a freer life given all the upheaval that is happening in the world right now? So this is her question, shall I stay or shall I move in that scenario? Does that help explain the situation there, Gaia?
Yeah, it does. Just the fact that you said before that I pull up the chart when I have understood the question means that if I feel there are details that I need to know before I cast the chart, I will ask them to you as a client, because the chart is so sensitive that if we have missing information, the chart shows there is missing information. And if we can avoid this, we avoid this, because the chart is incredibly sensitive. So if I have missing information and I can retrieve it from you, I will do it, because you are paying me for the full picture and for this picture to be as precise as possible.
Yes. Exactly.
So shall I start analyzing the chart?
Yes, I'm just going to reduce the size of the chart a bit so we can see it fully on the screen there. Perfect.
All right. So for those people who are wondering how in the world I read astrology charts, because I don't see the pictures, because many people I'm sure are wondering, and I'm gonna give you the answer.
I'm wondering.
No suspense at all here. Basically, there is a table which is provided by astrological softwares, but also websites such as astro.com or AstroSeek. And this is a table where, with all the planets in the signs, there is a list with the planets in the signs and the house cusps. Because in horary, we don't use whole sign house system, but regimental house system. And of course, we use tropical zodiac. And by the way, we use traditional rulerships for Scorpio, Aquarius, and Pisces. And the other planets are used when they are relevant, which means when they are aspecting a cusp or a planet. Now, with this out of the way.
No, thank you for that, because I think that's a legitimate thing people would have been wondering. I mean, when I first found out that you were blind, I was like, well, how on earth are you able to do astrology so well? And I'm delighted to hear that they've got software that allows you to be able to do that. I think wonderful.
Yeah, basically the screen reader reads the table, and then I kind of, because it's been like 3-4 years now that I'm around astrology, so I don't really need to I don't really need the lines to see what is aspecting what, because like if you see that there is a moon at 4 Capricorn and let's say Mercury at 4 Aries, that's a square. You don't need the line, it.
Yes.
Because you are familiar with astrology. Okay, so when we look at a horary chart, first thing we need to assess is whether we can read this chart or not. And for people of the Guiding Star Astrology, if it happens that the chart is not possible to read, I will allow you to ask another question. We will do our possible for this chart to come up radical, which means that you can read it. So I'll ask you questions.
Could I ask a question? What would make a chart unable to be read?
There are signals. There are, for example, there are criteria. If none of the criteria for radicality is met, the chart is not readable. Right. Now, there is debate around this, because there are astrologers who say radicality is just a trick for the astrologers not to take some questions. My approach is that everything counts in astrology. As one of my teachers says, everything is symbolical. Astrology is a discipline of symbology.
Yes.
So if the chart is not radical, it's telling me something. It's generally telling me that your question is misdirected, meaning that maybe you asked me the wrong question. Maybe we don't have enough details. Maybe, there's something. So that's why I keep it into consideration, because if the chart is not radical and I give you a kind of a false or fake answer, it's gonna, kind of impact either, first of all, my reputation, second of all, your pockets.
Yes, true. And probably someone's karma along the way there as well.
Yes. So I do keep radicality in mind. Again, I'll do my possible to have a radical chart. But if it's not possible, I will allow you to ask another question altogether. Now, this chart has two minor radicalities. So the ascendant, you see that it's a 9-degree Aries.
Yes.
And it's aspecting the moon in Aquarius. It's a sextile, and it's still in orb because we allow for 6 degrees when it comes to the moon. And also, the ruler of the hour, which is Mercury, is aspecting the moon. So those are two minor radicalities. So what does this tell us about the question? Well, it tells us that there is a little bit of confusion. And the fact that there is some confusion here, you see it because the first house, the ascendant, is ruled by basically 2 planets. One is the Mars, and the other is the Sun, which is the Untitled of Aries, because in their charts, Sun is exalted in Aries and it rules the triplicity, which is another dignity. We have 5 dignities in positive and 2 dignities in negative for each sign. The 2 in negative are the ones you know about it, which are the detriment and the fall, and the positive are the rulership, the exaltation, the triplicity, the term, and the phase. Anyway, if you put it all together, you see that the Sun in Aries is exalted, which is 80%, and it rules the triplicity in the day, and this chart has been cast in the day. So 80 of exaltation plus 50 of triplicity is 130. Rulership is 100. So you see the Sun is a little bit stronger than Mars. So we have 2 planets here. Then we have the Moon. The Moon is usually a significator of the querent. The querent is the one who was asking the question. The Moon represents the psychological, emotional, mental state the person is in. So we have already 3 planets for the querent, and it's a lot. Because generally we have 2. Worst case scenario, we have 4 planets for the querent. Anyway, 7th house.
And just for people who don't know, the querent is the person who's asking the question.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The 7th house is important here because it indicates, it represents the option of moving. Here, the option of moving is ruled by the 7th house. 7th house is in Libra, so it's ruled by Venus. But again, it's a specular. So the Libra sign in their charts finds Saturn in exaltation and triplicity. So we have another planet here as well. So how to interpret this is that the person is very confused and pulled into many different directions. And you may say, well, people come to you for guidance. It's, of course, they are confused. But, the natural state of kind of confusion or doubt or inquisitiveness or inquisitivity, I don't know. Sometimes I invent words because English is not my mother tongue. Anyway.
Go right ahead. I love a good invented word. It's great.
Yes. So your state of doubt is kind of a normal occurrence when you go to an astrologer because you need guidance. So if the chart shows that there are signs of confusion, it's a little bit more than just, the mere doubt, the mere need to have or to receive guidance. Yes. So here it talks about confusion, being pulled in very different directions, unclear motivations, or mixed motivations. There's a lot of things that are put into this cauldron, into this pan, if you want to put it this way, It's like this huge ball where there are so many motivation inside. So what I see first is a conflict between her rational mind, so to say, the facts, the logic, the events, the situations and circumstances which are ruled by Mars and the moon. Because you see that Mars is in Scorpio, so it puts the moon down, literally. Literally, it's the moon in Scorpio is in fall, and Mars puts the moon down. So what does this mean? Well, this means that the person is very confused, and also there is a conflict between what she wants emotionally or her desires, what she desires, and what the facts and the logic suggests. First. Second of all, the moon is in the 11th house, moving to the 12th. If the moon was like 1 degree ahead, that would be at 15 Aquarius, she would skip, because we use our rule for the order, she would skip into the 12th house. And the moon is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is the omnipotent of the 7th house, but it's also the ruler of the 12th house. So this person on the emotional and psychological level, she's really desiring the 12th house. 12th house talks about loneliness and isolation and being far apart. But
so that could represent that rural desire for her to escape. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. But the moon is in a humanitarian sign, Aquarius. We have a set of signs which are humanitarians and a set of signs which are animalistic, which means that they indicate places where people generally stay or are, and places where people don't. So let's put it very easy. Humanitarian city, animalistic, the Australian outback.
Very much so.
So actually, the moon being on a humanitarian sign tells me that what she desires actually to have relationship with people, to have people around her. And the moon, again, she's still in the 11th house. So it's another sign for this Saturn ruling the 11th house in addition to the 12th. It's again talking about this conflict of, you know, yes, I want to be on my own, I want to be isolated, but I want people, the friends, 11th house is the friends. And it could talk about a large community as well.
Right.
So how can I reconcile all this? And, you know, you go back and you see that conflict between the mind and the facts, between what you want, what you desire, and the practical material circumstances.
Yeah.
So I'm stressing this because this is important, because if I look at the 7th house, I see Venus and Saturn. So both Venus and Saturn are in humanitarian signs. Last 15 degrees of Capricorn are considered humanitarian, and Aquarius is considered humanitarian. So again, the place is coming up very much humanitarian. The quadrant, Mars and the Sun are in animalistic signs. Scorpio and the last, let me see, yeah, the last 15 degrees of Sag are animalistic. So again, another conflict, because the facts, the reality, the events and circumstances tell you, I want to be apart from people because people are like just too much, you know. I'm like, I have enough of this. But emotionally, psychologically, that's not what you want. So I can't tell you how to reconcile this, but it's something that you have to do, because you're pushing and pulling. And when you make a decision in such a state, of course, you can't reach fulfillment because there is a misalignment.
That's very wise counsel. I know she's going to be watching this video when it goes up, and I think this is, yeah, going to really hit home very much.
Yeah. And because what I see is that moving is ruled by Venus and Saturn. And if you look at how good Venus and Saturn are, they are very good. Venus is in triplicity, which is a 50% strength. which is not bad at all. Like 50, it's good. And if you look at Saturn, Saturn is rulership and triplicity, it's 150. That's massive. So the problem is not with moving in itself, but the problem is, why are you moving? Why do you want to move?
Right.
Also, something very important, Mars puts Venus down. Because Mars is in Scorpio, and Scorpio puts Venus in detriment. Venus is the place you would move in. So why is it that your rationality is putting Venus down? Why is that? What is worrying you when it comes to the facts, the events, the material stuff you do, that is putting this idea of moving down? Also, she's ruled again by the Sun and Mars. And if you look at Venus, Venus puts Mars in exaltation in term and the Sun in phase. So moving on itself, it's beneficial, but it puts the moon down because Venus is in Capricorn. And Capricorn puts the moon in detriment. So again, psychologically, this is gonna be very tough, because the move puts your psychology, your emotions down. Why? Again, another thing that is important to consider, this moving would benefit her on the physical level, on the day-to-day level kind of thing.
Right.
But psychologically, emotionally, your well-being might be impacted. And here it's very important because the querent doesn't have a particular reason to move. Like, let's say I'm moving because I have a job in that particular city, or I'm moving because my partner lives there. So the well-being here is very important because it's kind of the primary reason you want to move.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And the moon loves Saturn. And you see the moon there loving Saturn a lot. Saturn is the Almuten. The Almuten represents something fancier than the day-to-day reality. Something, and there's nothing wrong with wanting something, or looking at something which is fancy, which is glittery, if you want to put it this way. But the important thing is that this is not the day-to-day life. So if you want to talk about moving, for example, the day-to-day would indicate a place where you can live your daily life, your everyday life. A place of the Almuten would be maybe a place where people generally go on holiday. Right. So they go for a specific, or for the weekend.
So if
for tourism.
If she's able to reconcile the psychological component and then moving to a place where people go on holiday would be the best choice. Is that's what you're saying there?
No, it's the opposite, basically, because the moon wants very badly to move in this place, and it would be a place, again, where people go on holiday, where people go maybe for the weekend, tourism, and so on. But this place puts the Sun down.
Right.
So the Sun is her, but it's also the ruler of the sixth house. The sixth house is the lifestyle. And the lifestyle component is important for her because that's kind of the reason she wants to move.
Yes.
So if this place puts Saturn down, if Saturn puts this place down, or the displacement, which is the sixth house, again, this place of kind of where people go on holiday, or this a little bit kind of special place, it's not gonna help you with the day-to-day life. Maybe it's just because you have to drive 1 hour to reach civilization, and it's going to be taxing after a while.
Yes, that's about it. You have to drive a long way when you're in rural Australia just to connect with things. Yeah,
so maybe this is something, again, to consider. So another thing that I want to point out is that there is a little bit of wearing rose-colored glasses, just because if you look at the axis, ascendant, descendant, the anti-Sia, for those who have watched Kesenya's video, they know what anti-Sia is. It's connecting to Neptune, because the anti-sia of the 7th house is at 21 degrees Pisces. Look what's there, Neptune.
Yes, yes.
And the anti-sia of 9 degrees Aries is 21 Virgo. And look what's opposite there, Neptune. So again, if I have to pinpoint a place, so if I have to choose between Saturn and Venus, I would choose Venus, because Venus cares about her. You see, Venus puts Mars and Sun in the dignity. Saturn doesn't really care. Worse, it puts the Sun down, but it doesn't really help her. It doesn't really benefit her. However, first of all, I wouldn't move right now because Venus is very slow about to go retrograde, which is not a good idea.
Yes.
You see it, the speed is very slow. It's gonna station and then go back retrograde, then stations again, and then goes direct. So I wouldn't move now because of this reason, and also again because of this problem about the motivations. Yes. And the last thing that I want to say is that if we want to choose a place, we have again Venus and Saturn are, Venus is in Capricorn, which is the south. Yep. And Saturn is in Aquarius, which is the west. So if you want to combine them, and we are lucky because they do not contradict each other, thank God, because one could have been south and the other north, and at that point it would have been very fun.
How would you make a choice between those?
Yes. But now we are lucky, and we can combine south-west. And both Saturn and Venus are in the 11th house. The 11th house is an air house because it's one of the air houses, along with the 7th and the 3rd. So air houses are west again. So we have 3 indications for west, because we have 2 planets in the west plus Aquarius, which is west, and the one for the south. So I would go west and then, you know, move a little bit to the south if she wants to pinpoint a location. And Saturn talks about mountains and ruins and rocky places, yes. Even a little bit cold and dry. So it's like kind of the cold desert, if you like, not necessarily a desert, but a place which is rocky with the mountains and it's cold. Venus, it's cold and wet. So it's a little bit of a more humid place. It's a Venus in Capricorn. Capricorn is because Venus rules 2 signs, Taurus and Libra. So the Venus here is more a little bit of the Libra flavor. So because Capricorn, so Libra exalts the rule of Capricorn. So a Venus-ready place, again, it's a little bit more humid. And because it's a little bit flavor, more Libra kind of flavor, I would say a place where there is art, museums, galleries, or archaeological sites, because Capricorn is the ancient. Yes. So a place, so you see, this is not going to be a very remote place because there is art. Yes. But Venus is still Venus. So she talks about the garden. She talks about the park, but she talks about beauty. Yes. So again, if I had to choose, I choose Venus. So I would choose the place with art, a place with maybe, again, these archaeological sites, because Capricorn is ancient. But I wouldn't do it right now, because right now Venus is going to go retrograde, and because we have a problem with the motivations. Yes. So look, the final advice here would be, look within you why you want to move. And also the 7th house could represent the partner as well.
Right.
Because the partner is the 7th house.
Yes.
So the partner, what does the partner want? Because the moon is very much wanting to please the Saturn. But the Venus here, Venus in the partner wants to, honestly, the partner would like to move because Venus is wanting to help the partner, and Venus is in triplicity. But again, there is this fact of putting the moon down. So again, look at the reasons you want to move, both the psychological and emotional reasons and the practical ones.
Yeah.
Because Mars is ruling, let me double check, the 8th house. Yes, the 8th house, because Scorpio is ruled by Mars. And because Venus, which is the moving, puts Mars in exaltation and term, I am not sure that at this point moving would make you free from mortgages or loans, because the 8th house is the bank, the loans and the mortgages. So maybe you move, but you have to pay for the house, and there is the mortgage, there is the loan anyway to pay for at this moment.
Yes, and that was I understand it was her prime motivation, was to get out of debt. So you're saying that in moving, she may not. She's going to love this reading. I can't wait to hear her feedback, which I'll pass on to you, Gaia. But having had a chat with her recently about this, I know that she is in a state of confusion, and probably I would also say a state of panic as well, because of what's been unfolding in Melbourne in recent days. And she's like, I've got to do something and make a change so that we can get out of this situation. So that would be definitely true of what you've seen here, with the confusion and the pulling of two different parts of herself in two different directions about what she wants and where she wants to be. So
yeah,
really,
and if you look at the ruler of the 8th house, which is Mars, see how strong Mars is. So it means that the loan, the debt, or the mortgage, whatever it is very strong, but the moving doesn't really help. Like if the moving would put, if the moving had put Mars down, it would have been a little bit better, because it's like it knocks the thing out, you know.
knocks the loan out, you mean? Would knock?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So
me, it's
I want to just give the light at the end of the tunnel, because she's confused that when moon reaches 20 degrees of Aquarius, moon will have dignity.
When what reaches 20? The moon?
The moon, yes.
Yes.
When the moon reaches 20 of Aquarius, and I'm gonna give you the timing now, the moon will have dignity by face, and the ruler, the dispositor, Saturn, is very good. So she will have more clarity, because she will have some thinking. And it's 6 units, and the moon is in the 11th house. So we have a succedent house and a fixed sign. It's the medial length, so it's like 6 weeks basically. So let's give it 2 months basically, right, just to be sure.
For her to gain clarity, by which time Venus will have finished her retrograding.
Yes.
Which will also help to, wow, that's wonderful. You can give time frames that way, because I know a lot of people, hungry for that specific timing guidance, in terms of days, weeks, and months.
Some people ask questions just concerning timing, like when will I be able to sell my house? They don't even want to know
will it sell or not. They just want to know when.
Yeah, like will I sell it or not becomes something like intrinsic in the question once they ask you the when. But anyway, most of the questions, not most, but many questions, they are just about timing. They don't even ask you the weather part of things.
Yes, that's fascinating. I'm just going to stop share now so we can go back to see full screen.
Yes.
There we are. Yeah, and that was simply amazing. Like I said, she's absolutely going to love getting that reading and getting that guidance. And
I hope so.
It's very, I mean, I love, and I found this when you did readings for me as well, that the way that you give hope, you know, through timing or through, you know, just realistic perspectives like you've given here, you know,
Yes.
like you've said it's not time to move yet, but look, this is what's building, this is what's going to happen. And I think, you know, giving hope is one of the key things that an astrologer does, you know, that
Yes. Yeah.
So we've got to be able to see ahead and look to the future, but also, I mean, everything is yin yang. There's shadow and light and everything. There's good and bad, no matter what the circumstance is. And I think that's something that you've really highlighted through this reading, is that there's going to be some good elements, you know, to, if you wait, then, you know, you can, you know, go to your Venus place or whatever. But there's also, here's the shadow side. You've got to work through your confusion, and you've got to, you know, get some clarity before anything's going to happen. So giving that yin yang effect through your reading is fantastic. And I love, Gaia, that you can answer these pinpointed specific questions, and a lot of people need that right now in this crazy old world that we're trying to navigate through.
Yes. It's not easy, but we're gonna make it out. Absolutely.
Yes. I might, on that big picture topic, Gaia and I have been talking about Gaia doing regular videos, maybe once a month or once every, you know, season or something, to answer big picture questions on what is happening.
I'd love it.
Yeah, on what's happening in the world. So I would encourage anybody, you know, who would like to leave a comment on this video, you know, with a question that is big picture related, like what's going to happen in Italy, you know, what's going to happen with the Premier of Victoria in Australia, or, you know, make them specific to big world events. And Gaia, you know, however often we decide we're going to do this, Gaia will address a horary reading about those big picture mundane astrology topics.
Yeah, if you have political elections, or maybe there is a big trial of someone who has done something very public and it's very much in the news. I have no examples at the moment, but
I'm sure you'll have a lot before long, Gaia.
Oh, yes.
When everybody comes wanting questions answered. So in those videos that we're going to be doing, we're not going to address personal questions, but if you would like a personal reading with Gaia, she's currently got a discount on her Horary Astrology question. What's the usual price is $115 for an hour?
$110.
$110 for a 1 hour recorded reading, and that's reduced now down to 90, and this is Australian dollars too, so the conversion is there on my website for people who want to know what it is in euros or US dollars.
To kind of put it bluntly, you save with the change.
Yes. That's it. So it's an absolute bargain, because I mean, there's so much analysis that goes into this, and you can tell, can't you, everybody, from Gaia's extensive knowledge and her analysis there. It's just mind-boggling to me. I mean, I know quite a bit of Hellenistic astrology, but to see it just so succinctly, you know, gone through and articulated the way that you have, just, you leave me in awe, Gaia, really. And I know
I'm very happy.
Yes, you do. And I know that you've been studying astrology for is it 4 years now?
Yeah, almost 4 years, absolutely.
Yeah, and so to be at this proficient level and to deliver it with such compassion the way you do, you are a truly gifted woman with astrology. Absolutely. So
my philosophy is to deliver a reading the way I would like it to be delivered to me. So I try to kind of put out what I would like to be put in.
Yes.
Because I try to be coherent with myself, you know.
And I think that's beautiful, you know, and that's probably a lot of the reason why you give that perspective of hope with your, you know, I mean, that's the third reading I've heard you do. And, you know, there's always that perspective of, well, there's this issue, but here's the hope and here's the gold at the core.
Absolutely.
Which is wonderful. Not everybody can do that. So, you know, and I think just to carry things a little further, you illustrated this, Gaia, in the first part of our conversation when you were talking about, you know, you can be the victim, or you can decide, I'm going to put my big girl pants on and I'm going to work with this as best I can and find, you know, the best way to look at this and navigate this, you know, and I just think that's really, really a valuable way to look at life. You've been a real inspiration to me.
I'm very happy because it's the end of the year and we need a lot of inspiration because we have another year coming up.
That's so And on that topic, people, Gaia is going to be doing a video, especially on 2022. That's going to be coming up in early, I think the first week of January. I'm planning on releasing a number of videos by all the practitioners at Guiding Star Astrology, looking ahead to the year that's coming up for us, what to expect. I believe Kesenya is going to do a tarot forecast for 2022. Gaia is going to do a horary chart reading. So we have some exciting things coming up here at Guiding Star Astrology, of which Gaia is now a member of our team, and it's so wonderful to have you, Gaia.
I'm so happy to work with one of my astrologers and teachers as well. Kesenya has supported me as well. I mean, this is something much bigger than a job. This is not a job. This is realizing yourself in a way, which is something much, much more. And it's very important. Whatever you do in your life, try to, first of all, find a way to realize yourself, because after that, things will start coming into place.
Beautifully said, beautifully said. Well, thank you, Gaia, for joining us here today and sharing your vast knowledge. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this video. Book your reading with Gaia now, because she's going to be flooded with readings, so you want to get in while you can. Thank you, one and all, and we will catch you very shortly with other videos here with Gaia.